Hi there. In this lecture we join Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces against Levon Aronian. This is in the 2010 Amber Tournament's blindfold edition, round 2. So grandmasters can actually play very good blindfold chess, as this game is evidence for. So we see Magnus playing knight f6, we have c4 g6, we go into the King's Indian defence. It's great to see Magnus playing the King's Indian defence with e5 now and knight c6, pretty standard King's Indian defence. Knight e1, knight d7, knight d3, f5, bishop d2, knight f6, f3, king h8, g4. So I've actually used this system myself, as why I was inspired by a game of Shirov. So is there a downside to this line? It seems to stop black's usual kingside attacking prospects. So for example, if we played f4, white can get a pretty solid position after knight f2 and not be facing too much of an attack. g4 will be reinforced. So it's a pretty solid nut to crack. So actually f4 is not that tempting here. What we have instead, also sometimes the bishop can go to f2 in some cases as well. So what we have instead is actually c6. This actually is a very dangerous idea, c6, to basically say, well, you've weakened the diagonal a bit. You've weakened the diagonal at f3. So think about the x-ray opportunities, especially if the king was on h1 or g2. Think about them already to be able to anticipate them. In fact, we have an immediate king g2. This sets a very, very logical plan to try and x-ray through this diagonal, through the obstacles. There's lots of obstacles. We haven't even got a piece on the diagonal to start off with. So b5 is a multi-purpose move. It vacates b7 for the bishop. So there's ideas of an x-ray already now emerging. This is a much better way of playing, it seems, well, from the evidence of this game, than closing up with f4. We have b3. If c takes, we're going to get an advantage here with c takes, undermining white's centre. That would be great central control. We've just ripped apart white's centre. So b3, a5, knight f2, b4, weakening white's control over e4 here. We have bishop b7, so we've got this x-ray set up. There's the expression pin and win, but if you see more and more Carlsen games, you'll start to think x-ray and win is also the case, as well as pin and win. We have rook c1. This actually makes things worse for white. King g1, getting off the diagonal, would have been safer. If black tries to sacrifice here, black does actually have the advantage still. Yeah, damage has already been done. This is good compensation for black. But it's just made worse with the king on g2. We have f takes, c takes, e takes, and now, yeah, guess what? Yeah, knight e takes d5, removing the obstacles in the path of the bishop, going right to the king. We have now c takes, knight takes d5. The king moves to g1. If knight e4, we can play knight f6. And it's very difficult here after this pin. Bishop g5, we can play bishop takes e4 check. We can take on f3 here, e4, and this is a really strong advantage for black. So, okay, king g1 is played. So, I'll give you a quiz question here. What would you play in this position for 10 points? There's a very, very powerful move which is necessary here to stop a classic downside of the King's Indian defence, which every Russian schoolboy used to know about. So what is the classic downside of this King's Indian defence bishop? Yeah, it can be hemmed in if there's a blockade on e4 with a knight. That's something to know about. So in fact, we make sure this bishop is alive here by playing e4, opening up the bishop for e5. So that's a really good move. If we played queen h4, okay, there's resources around the king, but we've allowed this blockade, so it's going to limit our future resources around the king if this bishop's not involved. Black has a small edge here, but nothing more. You could argue, well, the bishop's been opened up there. Another, the blockade on e4 though, or the f pawn now blockade technically, and the control of e4 limits black's advantage. So e4 played straight away. We have knight takes, and now bishop d4 check, rook f2. This is pretty nasty, a really nasty position for rook f2 to have to be played. If knight f2, we can pile up on the pinned piece. We can play knight f4 here, and we're threatening the vicious knight h3 checkmate. So if that's taken off, then our dark square bishop is vicious after bishop e5. As one example, we're going to be mating on h2. So anyway, rook f2 is played. We have rook takes f2, knight takes. Now there is a downside of our position. We have an unprotected bishop on d4. And actually, white didn't tap into that. It seems, yeah, there's an actual inclination after losing an entire rook to recapture, right? That is definitely a natural inclination for white to recapture. There was an opportunity here, which Magnus was blogging about later, that actually white could have created some complications. Can you see the way white could have created some complications here? For 100 points, what could white have played in this position? So I mentioned there's a key downside of our position. That's a clue, actually. White could have played bishop g5, which becomes a multi-purpose move in relation to that unprotected piece, hitting our queen, but also hitting the bishop, which is connected to our king. We have two moves which guarantee advantage for black. Bishop f6 is one of them. So here, if king takes, we play bishop takes g5, queen d4 check, king g8, and this pin looks a bit scary, but we take on c1, and our king can find safety here on h6, for example. We have the dark square bishop to help control things on dark squares, and we're better here. We're going to be miles better here. So that's one way we come out on top. So bishop f6, just to recap there, king takes. Let's look at knight takes for a moment. We just play rook g2 check. So on king takes, knight e3 check. We take out the queen with check. h6. Yeah, this is, we don't want to give too much play. Well, in fact, we don't have to take the bishop, basically. We can play queen e7 here. And say knight b6. We're absolutely crushing it here. This is no problem. We're going to be like, this is checkmate, for example. The queen's overwhelming in this kind of position. So yeah, bishop f6 is working pretty well. So king takes, we have bishop takes. That's no problem. So looking at this again, knight takes, rook g2 check. If king h1, what would you play here for 5 points? Yeah, we can play rook takes e2. If queen takes e2, knight f4 check, and then we take on e2. Yeah, it's all pretty good with bishop f6. Just for the record, bishop e3 is also good for black. But it's very murky, and I would say it's extremely challenging in a blindfold game to track this stuff. This is much more kind of murky variations where the queen is sacrificed. We've got a lot of pieces to coordinate. We can, in theory, coordinate them well. But, you know, this is a lot to visualize, surely, even for the super grandmasters. So this position, black is better with piece coordination, teamwork coming in, because we've got so many pieces. There's a lot of great teamwork potential here, and we should end up with a big advantage. You know, this is just fictional stuff. We end up with a big advantage. Okay, so a way to mess things up after bishop g5, queen d7, we just allow this queen takes d4 check. And knight takes f2, big advantage for white. But this move, the recapture, goes down without a fight. It really goes down without a fight. We've got these two poking bishops at white's king. We have queen h4, resources near the king, no problem here, because we've got the rest of the army looking down at the king as well. We have queen e1, rook f8. Brutal stuff. Bishop f3, that's taken. There's no worries about the check here. These checks are not going to be doing too much. We have basically, we have queen e4. This is hopeless. Queen takes f2 check, and this is the end of the game. If king h1, knight e3, hits the queen, also supports queen g2 mating. So queen takes, queen g2 is checkmate. Rook c8 is pretty desperate. We could just play rook f8 actually. If rook takes, queen takes. And now if queen takes here, queen f1 is checkmate. So yeah, it's really quite hopeless in the end after queen takes f2 check. So yeah, this knight e3. Okay, so after the game, yeah, Magnus Carlsen blogged. He basically said after he missed the chance to complicate the position on the 25th move. This is a really great point. This was the recapture. I mean, as normal human chess players, we think, oh, you know, someone's taken our rook, we should really recapture. But that was the point of opportunity here. So he's talking about this point where bishop g5. So after he missed the chance to complicate the position on the 25th move, it was over. And he resigned on the 28th move. A very enjoyable win, not least because I spent less than 10 minutes on the clock for the entire game. So this is actually incredible because Magnus is not even playing the King's Indian fans all the time in major games. He's, you know, playing a lot of Queen's Indian territory. And to play the King's Indian in such a brutal manner here in a blindfold game, it's really incredible stuff. So no wonder Magnus's nickname, you know, became the Mozart of chess. It's like an effortless win as well. Absolutely effortless and a masterpiece. Elements of originality and kind of beautiful to play through. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this free sample lecture. It's from one of my courses. You can check out my courses at Kingscrusher.tv. So you get these coupon codes which will give you great discounts. I have over 50 courses now, been working on them for the last few years. All sorts of chess topics, chess skill topics like tactics, calculation, visualization. And you can see my previous bestsellers highlighted. So I do hope you check out this Kingscrusher TV page. It does help support the channel and encourage me to share with you more free samples. So comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. And if you really, you know, if you want to know the specific course the lecture was about, please do leave a comment in the video and that will prompt me for a pinned comment, etc. just to clarify for this particular video which course it was from. Okay, thanks very much.